Archie and Lilibet definitely don't exist. Welcome back again to my channel, Kate Middleton and the Queen News Network. After my previous video, I noticed there are quite a few of you that are refreshingly vocal about your suspicions surrounding the monarchy's involvement in a possible cover-up of information regarding legitimacy of Harry and Meghan's children indeed being born via surrogate. For some, this thought is a heresy that deserves to be punished, but for others, this notion isn't so crazy, and that lingering, undeniable aroma of BS is unmistakable to those of us that can smell it, and we're watching out for those who are attempting to take us all for a ride yet again. There's absolutely no denying that factual, verifiable evidence concerning this conspiracy would not only prove what people are thinking, but it would also bring a feeling of deep satisfaction to so many of us. A nicely wrapped little package of raw data and authentic, precise statements, complete with a dash of tasty emails and texts, was certainly on my Christmas list. Yet knowing what I now know about that jolly old fat fella who brings gifts, I've accepted that reality is too often disappointing. While the possibility of ever really knowing the real truth behind this saga is somewhat unlikely, we'll always have the privilege of scrutinizing the scenario, analyzing the breadcrumbs, albeit amongst a mostly subjective narrative. The royal family's mantra, after all, is never complain, never explain, so it would be pretty silly for any individual to think that they could possibly make a dent in that kind of armor. On the other hand, the Queen's surprising responses relating to the actions and continued viability of the Harkles, particularly after Megxit, has my eyebrows raised in suspicion. Before we fully dive into the deep end of this topic, I will say that I am of the opinion that Meghan Markle did indeed utilize the services of a surrogate to birth her children. That being said, the picture below is of a tweet that surfaced on the day of Archie's birth, supposedly posted from Kensington Palace's official Twitter account, but it was retracted shortly thereafter. Now, don't get me wrong, I wish so badly for this to be legitimate, but I have to be honest that I highly doubt that it is, and I wouldn't swear on mine or anyone else's life that it is indeed authentic. As tempting as a succinctly written tweet announcing this travesty from a verified Twitter user surely is, it barely scrapes the realm of logical possibility that any individual commenting on behalf of the institution could be so completely and utterly devoid of common sense. The level of idiocy required to even consider inviting that sort of inevitable media scrutiny boggles my mind. Surely someone would rightfully lose their head. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't to say that the children weren't the product of surrogacy and that key players within the firm were totally oblivious to reality. Personally, I consider this tweet a public expression, demonstrating what we were all really thinking. In my opinion, the next sample of photographs are pretty self-explanatory. They highlight obvious discrepancies between the two birth announcements. If you can't spot the differences by yourself and connect the dots yourself, I'm clearly overachieving in writing this post. It's also pretty important to note the wording contained in the Succession to the Crown Bill of 2013. So my point is this. If Archie and Lilibet are biologically made up of Harry and Meghan, their succession to the crown is left intact regardless of the body from which they were delivered. So could the royal family be complicit in hiding the knowledge that the Harkles' biological children were indeed born from a surrogate? So let's continue. It's become clear to everyone that the royal family is far above whining to the public about their trials and tribulations. When all is said and done, occupying a defensive position requires a lot of discipline and energy. It's also definitely an advantageous position within any confrontation. Now, obviously, adopting a speak no evil policy has its benefits and its drawbacks. The royal family knows this better than anyone, and there's no denying that they've been tested and tested recently. The audacity of the Harkles has been jaw-dropping, and still, what do the royal family do? They hold their tongues with all the dignity and grace that one would expect. They'll maintain their tough armor at all costs, and the Harkles know it. Now, we as the public have a very limited understanding of what Harry and Meghan are really like in the wild, and the tell-all interview with Oprah was our chance to observe them in their natural habitat from the comfort of our sofas. I cannot even begin to express how satisfied the dastardly duo surely must have felt initiating the whole slanderous, pathetic, and cringy spectacle. This really was their big go F yourself moment, and because of that, everything had to be just right. The highlights were perfect. Meghan's reference to Waity Katie forcing a faraway look when admitting that it was Kate that actually made Meghan cry showed all the signs of a subtle dig, a passive-aggressive nipple twist aimed directly at Catherine. It comes as no surprise to us that poor Catherine wasn't the only target in the line of fire of the Harkles' wrath. The invite was extended to all senior royals who undoubtedly recognized the blow that these pair were intent on delivering. With that one scathing statement regarding a senior royal member and the skin color of their firstborn, they successfully forged a path for a global onslaught of damaging assumptions to thrive and fester. The way they chose to handle things was a punishment far worse than enthusiastically and outwardly declaring the identity of those who must not be named. Rather than stand up and actually name the person accountable involved in the alleged conversation, the benevolent couple thought it more compassionate to just gaslight the viewing public, initiating finger-pointing and name-calling fueled by the implication that there was a racist senior royal family member in our midst. By choosing only to admit that it would be very damaging to them, we can see that there was calculated consideration involved in igniting this premeditated social media shitstorm, causing tempers to flare and disharmony among opinions to explode. It's really a foolproof method of breeding disinformation and hate. I mean, have you ever taken the time to read the comments section of a bad YouTube video? If yes, you see exactly what I'm talking about. Ouch. Even Meghan's claims to have the Queen on speed dial didn't grant Our Majesty a get-out-of-jail-free card. I'm pretty sure that during Meghan's short time as a working royal, even she began to understand that a specific, targeted attempt to bring the royal family into shame would be public suicide. So what the hell is going on here? Considering that Meghan Markle likens the digestion and participation of social media to suffering an addiction like that of a drug user, I find it very difficult to imagine that she hadn't ever considered the backlash of such a bold declaration. Although the intelligence of Meghan Markle is allegedly genius level, the Harkles' chosen plan of attack for me personally does not scream intelligence, but more a desperate attempt to maintain some form of control within the guidelines of the NDA that I have no doubt exists between the royal family and the Harkles. Seems to me like it's just a game to them. They're going to strike when they can, then they're going to run away chanting, "You can't catch me!" Although right now there's no definitive answer to this whole mess, I don't particularly think I even need one to know that there's something unmistakably fishy about all this, and I believe to some degree that the royal family have been pushed into an extremely uncomfortable position by the surrogacy of the Harkles' children. Now, I cannot claim to be a member of the royal family, and I also don't come from an insanely privileged background, so I have to admit I've never really walked a day in the shoes of these people, and I can't fully understand their motives. But you know what? This also means that they've never walked a day in mine, and it's not necessarily important in constructing a personal judgment based on the information received. My built-in bullcrap-ometer has been beeping nonstop since they made that fateful decision to plaster themselves all over global television. Those inner voices are instincts that have gotten me through the last many years of my life, and I'm certainly not going to stop listening now. And what about you? Do you agree with us? If yes, don't forget to like and share my video with anyone who needs it. And if not, tell me why, and we'll also talk some more about the Sussex couple. And remember to subscribe to Kate Middleton and the Queen News to get more interesting videos in the future. Now, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next videos.